Okay, I'm going to start on the sponsons. So this is probably the part that most people mess up because you have to have a right and a left one. The left one's pretty plain, but the right one has the turn fin mount to it. So some dowel rods go in here. So you want to make sure that it's correct. It also has different thickness of wood. It also has the bigger holes on the inside for it to fit the dowel rods and the turn fin, and then the pilot holes so you know where to drill. So I've prepped, you can even lay them out like this, keep them mirrored so you know which side to put the epoxy on. So I'm going to put the epoxy on the inside here and here, and then sandwich them. So you can lay them out, both lay them out like this. I've also prepared the boom tube holders and the dowel rods. I put paper towel in here because you're not going to leave these in as the two side plates of glue. You're going to remove them and do them later after you tape the two sides. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to put my sides together, making sure they're correct. So I've got the big holes on the inside. I'm going to put the glue on here and then sandwich them like this, and then stick my boom tube holders in here to make sure they're lined up, both the front and the back. And I can even put the dowel rods in at this time, and then tape everything to make sure it's all lined up. And once I got everything taped and it's stationary, I'm going to carefully pull these out and then wipe them clean. And then you put the paper towels in there so that you can remove all the epoxy that gets in there. And alright, so I'm going to get started and do that. Alright, voila. Alright, there you go. Now I got my right and left sponsons all side sheet. So once the epoxy dries, you see I got the right and the left with the thicker wood on the inside. So once it dries, I'm going to sand it all and form it, and then move on. Alright, let's continue sheeting the sponsons. So I did sand last night the remaining foam off of here. To do that, I basically use a belt sander to make quick work of it, and then I touch up with a sanding block. Basically, how I do it is I make sure, pretend this is the what the hell do you call it? The belt sander. Sorry. I just basically push it down until I hear the tone change, and then I know I'm hitting the wood side. So I don't want to take too much off. So I just basically let it touch, and then I kind of rock it to where it removes most of it. And then I come back and I kind of use the laser cut so it has a different color. So basically I sand until it starts being white, and say it's dark on this side but light here, so I've taken too much on this side. I'll start putting more pressure on this inside till I get it exactly even. Then for these sharp corners, what I do is I'll use a file. So sometimes sandpaper doesn't get in there very well. I'll basically use a file like this to make sure I have a nice crisp 90. And you can see here, here's a little bit of tone change. So see, I got, or the color tone change. I got, probably could remove a little more there. So, voila. See, like that. So the first two pieces you glue on the sponson sheeting are the L1 and L2. So this is my left, obviously, whereas your right has, here's the mounting points for the turn fin. So this is the left one. You basically just put this piece here, and then this piece also goes here. So you could do these first two pieces at the same time to save your time. And let's do it. So let me mix up my epoxy. I got it warming over here so that it pours easier and a little easier to spread. So I basically take put the water in the microwave for about 1.5 minutes. Then let's see, I don't use too much, so this is this epoxy, the 30-minute, is 1:1, so I'm going to do about 1 gram of each. So that's the resin, and then 1 gram of the hardener. There we go, come on. Alright, up. Not a very sensitive scale. Alright, so then just mix it up real quick. And I like to apply it to the sponson and maybe a little bit on here because it overhangs a little bit, so you don't want too much extra epoxy getting everywhere. Alright, so this should be mixed pretty well. And don't forget, get the top edge a little bit. You could always wipe it off. There we go. And you can, I like to also, with the numbers, put them on the inside so they're not out. So make sure it's just sitting on your 2 points, nice and flat. See, I got a little extra in there. I'll push it in, and then I can take my Q-tips and wipe off the extra resin. You might even need paper towels. Put too much on there. Voila. And then get this paper towel. I just use a piece of tape. This is the thinner 3M to hold it in place while it's gluing. Just to give some tension. Oh, like I squeezed out more, so. I want to be clean when you're building so that you have less to sand off later. Voila. It looks pretty good. Alright, so then that's how I basically put the pieces on. So I'm going to repeat for L2 and then all the same for the right, R1 and R2. That's it. Alright, I got my piece 1 and 2 done. Then I did sand them. So with these pieces you do sand flush, so I use the belt sander to get close, and then I use the final sanding block to do the final sanding. You'll want them nice and even and smooth. You could even do the top piece of the back. The sides, I'll show you what I do with the sides in a bit. So I usually leave the sides overhanging till I get all of them done, and then I use a small mini plane to take them down and then use the final sanding block to get them. So it helps cut down the wood on the sides easier with the plane versus using a sanding block during the whole thing. Takes forever that way. So I'm going to continue sheeting the sponsons. So what you want is, looks like a little piece. Okay, R3 is going to go back here. Just butts up against the first piece. So as long as you make sure that you're not too, as long as you butt it up there and leave overhang on this side and this side, you'll be good. You have to leave this overhang. So this helps shear the water. Do not sand this one flush. So when you glue it, you're going to have that overhang. Same with R4. So when you could do these two pieces at the same time. When your next step to help move this, keep the sponsons moving. But what I do is you have to leave a little bit of overhang here, so it's kind of hard to tell where the line is here. So basically I just mark 1/8 inch with a ruler, and then I take my 90 attached to this no burr side and draw a line, so that when I'm gluing it I can look and basically line up like that. So I put the back piece on the line, that I know I got my 1/8 inch overhang, so that should leave me, put me at the correct spot here for my next piece. So now I'm going to glue that and come back. Okay, I got my sponsons sheeted. So I did the front piece the same, so I make a little 1/8 inch mark and then line up on the front, and then it gives me the position on the back. And then I'm going to glue in these last two pieces, the nose blocks. So I'm just going to line up with the top here with just a little bit of overhang, and then I'm going to sand it and shape it. So to do the sanding on the side, I use mainly the little mini plane to scrape off the little edges here of the sheets, and then I use a final sanding block to get it all smooth. So I'm going to grind or glue these two little nose blocks to my sponsons, and then they're pretty much done after I see them. Okay, it's been a couple days since I've worked on this, but I got some family in town, and but I got a lot of little things done on it. So right now I got the rest of the hardware. I did go with the pre-bent tube from them. I've got two, but I figured I'll just use what they have because it's already set for it, how they designed it. And as you can see, I got the stuff tube in there, and then I did go with a Teflon liner to take up some of the slack on the smaller shafts. I do like them. This is just a P limited setup, so it's not high power, so I like the Teflon for the smaller stuff. I do have my shaft in, my drive shaft and flex cable in there. I did print a motor, so I kind of know about the area, and since I got the pre-cut tube, hopefully I don't have to adjust it too much. I could always cut off some, but just can't go back. So I did put the collet on there with the shaft in the collet, so I know where to line it up. So when I'm going to put a piece of fiberglass over here, I'm going to tape the bottom and put fiberglass on the top, and then I'm going to align it by sticking these individual toothpicks kind of at the height I need. So if I need to raise it, or maybe put it back over here if I need to lower it, just to get it right. And then once I get it perfect, I'm going to put epoxy with a little fiberglass sheet over here and wet it out, and then coat it a couple times. So I did seal this once, and then once I get the stuff tube in there, I'm gonna sand it all and then coat it all at once so it gets nice. I did also start working on the rudder setup. So I 3D printed a motor mount with my initials. You can see, shows when it's up. Then I did power it on and get it at 90 or as close to it. And then I'm going to try and set up without even gluing it in. I about know where it's got to go, so it could go anywhere. Probably just rest it against back here. You can be kind of anywhere in the center, but depending where there's no cross member here, so I'll be able to get to the screws pretty easy. So just be mindful of where you're putting your screws. Then I'm working on the linkage setup. I normally like to run the boot. Where is the boot? Here it is, I think. Is this it? No. Anyways, I printed. I'll find it. Up here it is. So I normally like to run the boot on the inside, but with this connector I'm going to use, there's not much room. I hope it's not going to need. It shouldn't need too much. It will go back. And hopefully I won't hit the hole or the side of the hole when it goes forward. It shouldn't need that much. It only needs, like they say, what, 15 degrees or something like that. So I'm going to try to put this one on the outside, but the problem is I got the screw and bolt here. I like it on this side so I can at least hit here and then use a box wrench to get at this. So I might just have to cut the bolt flush with the nut. And then I did 3D print. I don't know where it's at. I did 3D print a boot holder so it could come out here. It's got a little lip to rest in there, but I'll have to make sure it's not interfering with this. So then I'm just going to get everything set up. I'll put this in there. Might have to use the middle hole as it might align better. Yeah, probably definitely the middle hole. So I want to get everything at 90, kind of see where everything's going to be at. So obviously the center of this middle hole is better than out here. I don't need that much throw anyway, so I'd rather get a nice straight setup here with the middle hole. I did also print a battery tray. So you can see I left a spot where I'm going to put the shaft, and then I did put the letters of the boat in there. It's going to go like that. Somewhere I'll glue it in, and then it's about 4 millimeters thick, so I can fit the battery straps in there. What else? So when I'm measuring my shaft, this sounds terrible. When I need to cut my shaft, my drive shaft or flex cable, I like to do it this way. So I basically put on the drive dog, and then I put on the props I'm going to use. So this is the one that comes with the kit. Or, you know, if I'm experimenting, I'll probably want to use an ABC. So this is just a ABC I have that I want to check, because they're a little bit thicker root, as you can see, versus CNC. So I want to make sure I'm not, you know, leaving where it would be like this, where I can't get the nut on there. So, or I have to make a second notch. So I want to test fit a couple. And then you want to make sure it's not so far forward that you'll have to use a piece of fuel tubing. Oh my gosh, I can't drop it. A piece of fuel tubing here. So you don't want any of the smooth shaft sticking out to where the nut stops and then it's loose in there. So try to check with both your props that you're going to use that it goes all the way in. And I think that's about it. So I'm gonna seal. I'm gonna get my drive shaft in, then maybe start gluing in the battery tray and the servos to get all the servos set up. And then I did also cut the front flotation piece. You need this. So what I like to do is seal the tub a few times before, and the instructions say before you put the top on. So that way, if water does get in here, it doesn't ruin the boat. You'll have everything sealed in here, so make sure you coat this a few times. And then when you get your flotation piece, it comes as a foam square. I like to first cut out the notches so that I can fit it at least all the way to the bottom. So it goes to the bottom, and then you have a piece stick up. And then you could either just use trace it with a marker on both sides, and then cut on the bench, or I just use the boat as a guide. So I just have a little saw that I go all the way through. And I think that's it. So I'm going to continue on, finish the stuff that I said, and I'm going to hopefully get the lid on soon.